are online, gentlemen. Hello, Internet.
All right,
Oh,
excellent.
wow. Going to start recording.
Let's see, that's muted. Okie dokie. So let's go over the rules here, then we'll introduce people and do updates and get started. Alrighty?
Well, mine says online. Says offline. I don't know why. Oh, it's live now. My bad.
Okay.
Yeah, it's live now.
I apologize for my lighting.
No worries. Okay, so let's see. First of all, if you have headphones, use them. I'm not. I was trying to. That was part of the delay. So no worries. Just make sure there's no reverb from other people's voices. Limit. Make sure we stay on topic as much as we can. No pressure again.
We discussed that before the chat.
Okay.
Keep it simple.
Yeah.
Limit your run-on paragraphs, so if somebody wants to cut in real quick, they have a chance, things like that. Stay on topic.
No rants, okay.
If you do make a noise or you're eating or chewing on something, mute your mic.
Hello, guys.
Cool.
Hello.
And we got Gargamel here. Let's see, and do be respectful and watch the chats. We got 2 chats going on now. We're going to have possibly somebody chatting with us in the Twitch side of things, and certainly in the Discord. So watch the chat every once in a while if somebody has something to say.
I probably won't be able to watch the chat very closely because of the way my phone is set up, but I will try.
Okay, no worries. We'll bring things up.
Just do. We'll try to do it ourselves then. No hard feelings.
Alrighty.
I'll be back in one moment.
Okay, no problem.
I am happy my mic is not picking up my fan because it's scorching hot here and I'm not turning it off.
Don't worry, Chris. A fan is we need more fans.
Alright, it's getting already. So,
Hardy har.
You guys ready for this?
Yeah, I'm ready.
I was transferred to be ready at all times.
Awesome. Okay, let's see. Very blue today. All right, so everybody, welcome to our first official Monstercast here at World of Monsters. Today's topic will be monsters or creatures, monstrous creatures that assimilate, and we'll go more in depth on what we mean on that exactly. Some updates first. We got already something going on here. First official. And yes, it's the first official one, meaning it's the first one that's actually streamed. We're going to have some face cams going on here. We're going to have an interesting, we'll have the internet in the background if we're looking at something specific. And we're going to have our Discord show here as well. So let's do that. There we go.
I'm going to get the face cams running.
Is it running all right for you? We'll see after. It's our first one. It's a bit rocky. I'll make sure everything's ready quicker. Sorry about that, guys. By the way. So the title.
No problem. It's the first time. We are going to have some errors to screw up. So I'd rather get it out of the way now than in the middle of everything when we're going really hot.
It happens all the time.
Probably shouldn't.
Unfortunately, just the way it is.
All right. Now, for this podcast, we were thinking about some titles that we brought up last time, so we can refer to it as a Monstercast quick, I guess. But I did do a poll, so is everybody seeing this? Let's see here. Okay, should be. Oh, it's in the. Let's see here. Okay.
Also, don't worry, Arthur, I got you.
Cool. So we did a poll for the name of this new podcast that we're doing, and this is the poll results. So we had Monsterhood Roundtable, Monsterhood Hive Mind, Voices of the Monsterhood, World of Monsters Hive Mind, WOM Hive Mind, and Council of the Monsterites. We had a few comments here. Itagbeer said tempted let's see, to keep the name similar to the channel, he likes the idea of World of Monsters Mindcast, and we got Monsterhood, Hive Mind, the Round Table. So the one obviously that's winning is Voices of the Monsterhood, and I gotta be quite frank with everybody here because that's a title that I sort of liked and stole. There's a podcast called Voices of Terminus, and it's a podcast that they do around a upcoming MMO game. And it's a podcast I often listen to when I'm editing and stuff like that. So I did like their name. I put it up as an option. I wasn't sure if people would choose it, and they did. So I actually did contact that podcast person. So we do have official permission as well. And I do look forward to...
It does sound different enough that I don't think they could sue you. It's not...
I mean...
It's a little different than Voice of the Terminal or whatever.
Sure. Yeah, there wasn't any real... Go ahead.
Some wisdom from Eastern Europe. If you steal something, don't tell people that you've stolen it.
Yeah.
That's the Bulgarian speaking.
Well, the main thing was that I actually...
That's someone Eastern European speaking. Sadly, it's a common thread here.
True.
And then when you're caught, just deny everything.
So...
Listen, this is not I know this is about a simulation where we don't ask for permission, but isn't that just a tiny bit over there?
So mainly I did it out of respect, as I do like the guys there, and I do look forward to collaborating and joining their podcast one of these days. So we did talk about that.
I will look forward to that. Remember to post a link in the Discord.
Sure, and possibly doing something bigger with the actual MMO that's going to be coming out. It's Pantheon, I believe, Fall of Heroes. So it's been in production a while. It's got the rootings of... the guy that created Vanguard and behind EverQuest and things like that. So I'm thinking about doing a contest where we can maybe have some influence in that world, us Monsterites. So we'll see.
It would be fun.
It sure would.
Though I am a little bit... I do have a bit of a confliction of interest because I have already pledged to Ashes of Creation. And, Ashes of Creation has the memes on par. How does the other one? Because does it have the slogan "Make MMOs Great Again"?
Nothing's wrong with the slogan. So, that's it, guys. That's all for updates. I want to put a poll up on this video when it appears on YouTube. So it's going to be somewhere, let's see, it's going to be right above me here. And the poll is going to be, once these monster casts are uploaded to YouTube, would you like to see them edited down without the side talk and maybe unrelated stuff? Or would you see them raw as they appear on Twitch as they are filmed? So please vote on that poll. That will be up once it's uploaded on YouTube. So
we should also add that you just could tune in every now and then if we stream this weekly. I mean, this is kind of an experiment. I hope that will go on and on.
That's right. So we've done 2 such chats already. The last one was Demons, and it was quite awesome, and I felt bad for not recording it. That's why we started this. So let's see how it goes. I want to welcome today's people that are in The Voice here on Discord, and anybody can join this. The link is always in the description for our Discord. We have Dande. Is that correct? If I said it correctly.
I'm guessing he's just listening. He doesn't appear to turn his mic on.
Oh, okay. All right. So we got Dande. I thought he was speaking, but it looks like he's going to be in the chat, in the text area. We got Gargamel Gold joining us again.
Yeah.
There he is. And we got Hope You're Doing Well here. Maybe in the text chat. And then Chris Chu is back for his, 3rd run.
Hello.
Then we got Procrastitron here, back for the 2nd. Actually, Procrastitron, I think we heard his voice. Is that correct?
Yeah.
There we go.
Everybody.
Awesome.
Hello there.
First time ever.
There we go. And then we got, Nook back again.
Hello, it is I.
Excellent. Awesome, guys. We got the team here. So, let's talk about, well, first let's talk about maybe what is assimilation before we start saying which beasts would fall under that category.
I'm going to come up with one. Oh, sorry, procrastination. Are you trying to talk first? Procrastination?
Someone else can go first.
Okay. I was going to bring up a beast that would fall into the category of monsters that assimilate, because I have a feeling no one else is going to bring it up. The Strigoi from the Strain.
Good one. I was going to bring that up along with once we get to the animal side of things, so that's a good one. So when you
have to educate me on that. Not familiar with the strain.
Okay.
Basically vampires.
Yeah, they're vampires that have these like tubes that come out of their mouth, and when they infect you with these worms, and you become part of the hive mind. It's kind of complicated to explain though, because there's a lot to it.
Mm-hmm.
I would believe that. It sounds like an interesting topic.
I also want to say welcome to looks like Idig Beer in the Twitch. So Idig Beer's supporting also a YouTube channel out there, 40K based. So awesome to see Idig Beer. Nick over there, a good friend of ours here. So when you look at the definition of assimilation, it's basically absorbing nutrients from something else for our own organic benefits, for our own complex organs. So even just eating is assimilation. Plants assimilate every day. We assimilate every day. But we're talking something else. We're talking here about needing to assimilate other organisms for survival, right?
Right. You mean like creatures that that in order for their species to survive, they have to turn other members of other species into their species in some way.
There you go.
Like the Borg or the Strigoi or xenomorphs on one end.
So I guess...
Well, I personally would say, I'm sorry, Chris, that xenomorphs actually are not, what's it called, assimilating creatures. They're just parasites, to be honest.
Why does your voice
That's what I
sound
said.
weird?
I thought about that for a moment and realized that.
You sound like you have something in your mouth, Z.
Me?
I was having a chew. What's it called? No, never mind.
It's having issues with the face hugger.
There are two versions of it. One is, as you mentioned, the species who need to integrate other creatures into their species in order to survive. And then there's others who don't need that. They just do it because it helps them conquer stuff faster, to adapt to things faster.
Right.
Purely because they can.
And I'm glad you guys brought that parasitic aspect up early, because there's a little bit of separation there. But do you want to include sort of the parasitic creatures into this discussion? There's a fine line there. Or a gray line.
I think the xenomorphs would fit into that mold, but it depends on how the parasite affects the victim, in my opinion. If it spreads it causes very rapid mutation, or causes actual integration into the parasite species, like making a visual transmission, bringing the victim under the control of a hive mind or something like. I think that is acceptable to be included.
And you said...
I'd say that the xenomorphs are.
Sure, and I think you said another key word there, which is mutation, and that's that mixture of both genes. So with the xenomorphs, let's begin with the xenomorphs. Then we have the face hugger, which attaches itself to other organisms, such as humans, and then creates a new xenomorph, which has its biology based on that host. So it's a new kind of mutation.
Like I think you've said in a previous video that the xenomorph embryo that is deposited into the host tries to replicate the genetic makeup of said host in order to be better adapted for the environment in which it is going to pop into.
Mm-hmm. Right. Extreme adaptability, as we see with a lot of these. By the way, Chris True, if you can turn up your volume just a little bit.
I am maxed out. The best I can do is bring my mic closer to my mouth.
Got it. Okay. All right,
Yeah,
I'm
go on.
sorry. I got shit tier gear.
No worries.
All right, a little bit further away when breathing, please.
So let's bring up some other similar creatures or that would fit into all this.
Well, I think that a good example of a simulation would be the Cybermen from Doctor Who, but they are very broad stroke due to the fact they can only assimilate humans, which kind of limits their range of accessibility.
Didn't they get reworked to be able to assimilate anything that even living or dead?
Yeah,
The
but the
Cybermen
original
are-
concept was what's it called? Converting humans. It appears to be a common feat amongst the science fiction races, such as the Borg and alike, to use technology to simply just stuff mechanical things into your face, and then you suddenly look like a half cyborg, and then the CG team is think it's enough, you're assimilated.
That is interesting,
The
especially...
Borg also can assimilate pretty much any, humanoid species at least. I'm not sure about stuff that's not humanoid.
Good point.
I can now imagine a bovine spork. Oh, that sounds interesting.
That'd be powerful.
Yeah,
and that's
producing
interesting.
spork.
It's
What will they
interesting.
do when they discover the power of milk? Sorry, go on.
It's interesting going back to the xenomorphs too, because they're biomechanical, right? They're silicon based, so in a sense they're also almost cybernetic, like the Borg in that second kind of nature.
Yeah, that is interesting. The thing is that when it's a biological element that converts things, it mostly involves eating or consuming or infecting somehow parasitically or
Osmosis.
what's it called?
Absorbing.
Yeah, basically. I think we should talk about a simulation in a tiny bit of different light, because there's this old monster movie called The Blob, which is the baseline of a simulation, if I have to be honest. It is this giant blob of... it doesn't take that much imagination to imagine this giant blob ooze of mass just wants to eat everything, or doesn't want to, but is genetically made to do that.
But see, the blob, again, is that simple term of assimilation where it just feeds and consumes. It doesn't mutate, whereas the thing can mimic, and that actually mutates.
Yes, the thing. Oh, where to start on that?
That's probably our classic most example.
The king of all assimilation.
There you go.
I mean...
I'm inclined to dispute that.
I mean, the thing
Agree to
about...
disagree.
Well,
Please do.
The thing about the thing is that the thing is an alien organism that came to Earth and was frozen, and then picked up and decided to nom everything. I would say that ranks pretty high in all of the checklist of things that, that is in the simulation.
What do you think,
the thing
Chris?
Is that it does not appear to be anything more than a singular case of it. It does not reproduce in such a way that it should swarm everything and take over everything. Sure, it could, but it does not seem to have that spread towards.
I'm not saying that it's I'm not saying that it's bad or ineffective. I'm just saying that it is not among the crowning individuals whom I'm sure we'll mention today. At least not in the top 3.
All right.
I mean,
Well, the thing I think would be in the top 3 because it can assimilate basically anything, and it's not, it's pretty much just a virus. And it's a virus that assimilates.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, but like a virus, it has a very distinct weakness, not just fire. I mean, all of these creatures kind of fall short if we frame flow at it. I will agree that's not a good argument, but let's just say, for instance, that the thing can be cured with a flamethrower, where something, let's say, like a xenomorph is just going to run away and then come back and jump out of there and rip your face out. Or at least try.
Wouldn't someone infected with the thing, if they saw a flamethrower and they were being outnumbered and attacked, is there any possibility that guy might run away, then hide, then try to infect someone else later?
Yes, because the thing is not unintelligent. It seemed to be able to just go in and knows everything that thing knows now. because it did some pretty nasty stuff.
Mm-hmm. So
in terms of the, please go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, conversation between two gentlemen.
Well, what I was trying to say is that the thing about the thing is it means of infestation is not as fast and not as malleable. It's from what because I dug a little bit, and from what I've seen about it, it's not as adaptive in its means of infection as the top three species that I'm referring to, and it feels a bit more like the grouchy old grandpa on the porch. There's like, used to be the scariest, more terrifying thing. Okay, Gramps, we know. You can tell us your war stories later.
Well, I will actually give you some. Well, that is some credence to that, due to the fact that the thing was I will say that was a product of the 80s in a good way.
I agree. I mean,
I don't know.
It's a powerful.
See, the thing actually was a product of the 1950s. The book, the original book, I think, Who Goes There, whatever it was called, was written in the 1950s. It was mentioned in a video, so it's actually based on an old story. And there's actually I think there was another movie in the 1950s that was made based on the novel. It was also the earliest attempt at making a Thing movie.
Correct.
Well,
but it wasn't very good, from what I understand.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, knowledge of video game.
The effects were, they could have used more work, but nowadays, with at least the most recent, the quote-unquote original Thing movie, that was some well-made stuff.
It was pretty decent.
That's the kind of thing I would not allow my children to see if I had children. At least not until they turned 13.
I'd have to.
And then they would have nightmares.
I'd have to agree with you, Chris.
I think.
Go ahead.
Oh, go on. Please go on.
Well, go ahead. Finish your thought, because I wanted to go into a listing here.
Okay. So basically, I think what the Thing has above other assimilation-based organisms like the Flood, for example, is its stealth capabilities. I mean, it's actually the main point of the entire movie is that you don't know exactly who the Thing is, and basically, if that Thing makes its way to like the main populace, then it's game over, pretty much.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah, but with it is good at hiding. But in the case with the I'm just going to say the top three right now. That being the Flood, the Zerg, and the Tyranids. Their means of infestation and infection is a lot more overwhelming and a lot more powerful.
Oh yeah, I'll give you that. Yeah.
Right.
And so if their virus were to come in contact with something infected by the Thing, the virus could try to hide, but either of those three, they overwhelm the entire organism, and by the time they find it, they develop a lot more faster. Their infections develop a lot faster and more voraciously than the Thing, and they'd be able to overpower it.
Well, the Thing.
What I mean.
Well, if we are going in on Tyranids, the Tyranids, of course, have a slower and far more complex way of infecting populace and such things. But if we're talking pure monster nightmare material, we are definitely looking at a Thing. I will say that there are better ways.
Sure. As far as power and everything, I agree that the Thing doesn't have its limitations, and a lot of it was the mystery of who it is and the ability of its mimicry. So with the Tyranids, I believe that would be a nice, like, one of the units within the army, because they have so many adaptable units that would be a single unit that could infiltrate into the other sections or armies.
Yeah, would make sense. Oh,
so,
yeah. Speaking of the Thing, wasn't there also an underwater The Thing sometime? I mean, literally just the same special effects, but just underwater, which is fucking cool, but still...
That is news to me.
Isn't it called the Leviathan or something?
Something like that. Something more dangerous.
There was a sinking ship, I believe, and...
I remember no, that was Deep Rising.
Yeah, I don't remember that movie, the Leviathan. Like, I remember a vague scene where everything was filling with water, and a mouth with teeth appeared on someone's hand. It was a rather forgettable movie, in my opinion.
That sounds like basically every shark movie ever.
I think I remember. I think there was like these two there's like the scene where two infected people were having like in a shower, and they started like merging somehow, because that's how the infection works. Like they weren't even aware of it until it starts affecting. Like it's like the thing, only it's even less efficient in one respect, because until you start changing, you don't even know you're infected.
So if we may, let's...
Together until death do you part.
I'm getting my list, because the last video all about it that we did was the necromorphs, and as you guys may know, at the end of those all abouts, I always do similar beasts, and I think some of those would go into here, as I know a lot of those, some of those were Tyranids and the Zergs. So let's make a list here. Let's add to it, and then we can start to debate which would not belong in this list. So we got the Xenomorphs, we got Zergs, we got the Thing, we got possibly the Blob. We also have the Borg that we've mentioned. Anything I've missed so far?
Strigoi, you missed the Strigoi from the
Strigoi.
Necromorphs definitely fit. Because in my opinion, they come in close fourth after the Flood, Zerg, and Tyranids. What else infest stuff?
Symbiotes?
Symbiotes, yes, we got...
From Marvel, yeah.
Right, and that's something I was going to ask about, is Venom and the Venom symbiote and the whole planet.
Yeah.
Yeah, their entire species is based on assimilation. So.
Yeah.
Something else that
quite destructive too.
Going to mention Doom now.
We don't really have a lot of assimilation there, but there's something I'm not sure if it counts. Since we mentioned Marvel, to mention DC, giving everyone a fair share. These scarabs, like the Blue Beetle, the alien that invades the scarabs that merge with you and give you an Iron Man suit on steroids with a cool bug motif.
I don't think that's a simulation in the same way that we think a simulation, due to the fact that it's taking something and it's modifying it, but it's not taking over it, literally.
I also haven't heard of the scares before.
Well, because they are made by a race called the Reach, who essentially boost the power of their warriors. What they do is they create these sentient machines called scarabs. They're like bug machines. They send them out throughout the universe, and they land on various planets with life. Then they attach to one person, and eventually, based on their programming, they take over their minds and create them into a hero of the local people. And by the time the Reach make it to said planet, it would have likely been subdued in one way or another by the Scarab Warrior. And they're essentially the Scarabs themselves are a mechanical version of the symbiotes from Marvel, from what I can discern, as in they do have their own consciousness. It's just, unless you somehow manage to break and reprogram them, they are under the command of the Reach race.
Let's see what that
also
looks
another
like.
Heavy hitter from DC I'd like to mention is Star the Conqueror. Basically a massive starfish that shoots out mini versions of itself that takes over hosts and uses that to further itself.
Nice.
And we have Raincrawler saying the creatures of the invasion of the Body Snatchers was
that's a good one.
Replaced by some kind of extraterrestrial fungus or something like that. It creates an exact copy of the people with all the complete memories, but that have no emotions. Does this count as an assimilation? The name Body Snatcher sounds familiar, but I'm not very sure. So that fungus just steals people and then makes duplicates of them from itself. Is that the general gist of it, Raincrawler? Oh wait, he's not in voice chat. Is he viewing us?
Well, the thing is that the simulation chart we have so far, all of them are widely different, and placing them on a list is going to take a little bit more specifications.
Right.
So if we are talking the point of a simulation, some of these things are just aspects of the character or the race, and while not the primary part, we look at how good they are at assimilating other races, or should we look at how effectively they does it?
I'd like to first answer something that I see IDIC Bear mentioned it. Not the Tyranids, they just eat the enemy. That's the point. They eat them, and then they use the DNA of what they eaten to make new stuff. Someone
What was that?
That was an assimilation, my friends.
Well, Z malfunctioned.
Damn it,
Damn
his
Necrons.
Necron is showing.
Beautiful. If you guys see here in the stream, this movie, you may have seen The Invasion. I also had that in mind. It had the a sort of bacteria or alien form that came in onto our planet and started infecting people. You may have seen this. And it kind of started controlling their minds and putting them in a sort of zombie, very simplified state. So that's something I want to dig into deeper too with parasitic stuff and back to the strain and things like that. Let's see. So we have we
There's
mentioned.
also, sorry, I just remembered something else.
Go ahead.
There was also a film called Skyline and Beyond Skyline, and in those films, the aliens they kidnap people, they hypnotize them, they kidnap them, and then they kill them and they take their minds and put them in these robots, and while they're inside the robots, they're under the control of the alien race, which I don't really learn that much about, and I'm not really sure how it works exactly, but it kind of is assimilation, but I'm not really sure what
Yeah, I think that counts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that counts.
I think as long as the genetics of another species is used to further their development or in some way we can include here.
That is a nice looking image you've got on stream right now.
What do I have? Ah, yes. So another one I wanted to mention from Warhammer that kind of gets put aside when we talk assimilation, because of course Tyranids get picked up, but we also have Chaos. And if you look at the Chaos and Nurgle models, you'll see humanoids with tentacle arms and obvious kind of manipulation and distortion of genetics. And not just Chaos Nurgle, but Chaos Khorne as well.
Chaos in general is intriguing topic because Chaos is not so much a singular species that just uses you as munching genetic material and takes you over. Chaos is essentially, if you decide to follow it on your own free volition, it will give you neat stuff, and essentially you're allowing yourself to be a test subject for genetic modification, like extra genetic modification, which in some case produces like 5 to 6 tentacles out of your bum, but it is a form of assimilation, but it's not the more bestial that, say, Tyranids or other such creatures have.
It's more of another force.
You are willingly deciding to be turned into a monster to have more power, rather than an animal munching on you to advance itself and become more adaptable. As Chaos doesn't necessarily make you more adaptable, it gives you random stuff that may make you more lethal, but it's not necessarily adapting you to be better at surviving.
Sure.
Depending on
adapting you for battle.
It also might, in some respects, make you less capable of survive because people are going to most likely recognize that you've been corrupted by Chaos.
Ooh, I hope you're doing well. Mentioned splinter virus.
Yes,
it reminds me of something else, but I'd like to ask, what is the splinter virus exactly?
It's coming up.
Better educated.
Because I'm looking at my list here, and I have the race from the Run Like Hell video game. I put in horror movie, and then yes, Splinter is another one. So let me see the race here from Run Like Hell video game. Okay, that's definitely not Running Like Hell. Or maybe it is. That sort of looks like Running Like Hell. So anyway, there is a species called the race that does do a sort of assimilation there. And then we have Splinter. Let me get some images of that. That one's pretty cool. I do look forward to checking out that movie. There you go. It's literally a lot of splinters, but it takes out body parts. It's sort of like the Thing. It's also, I believe, a microorganism. And there you go.
Ooh, that looks awesome.
It does. It looks pretty. It looks pretty fun. So taking off different body parts, and it can animate those and such. And then it has this really offensive appearance to it with the whole splinter spikes appearing. So
I need to Google the name of this thing.
Another one is you guys mentioned the mutagen from Leviathan, and then we have let's see. Then another one I wanted to bring up is zombies, and maybe we can agree that it's not necessarily zombies, but what we have come to call the infecteds, like in the movie 28 Days Later and such.
On the topic of viruses, there's also two which I feel are valid to bring up. Also, one mixes zombie thing. One being the Ouroboros from Resident Evil, and the other being the Blacklight virus from Prototype.
You beat me to it, Chris Chu.
Nice. These are some new ones for me, so...
Good old Alex Mercer.
I was disappointed by the way the second game happened, but not going to get off topic.
Oh, there was a second game?
Prototype 2, yes. Alex is the bad guy. Spoilers.
That looks pretty devastating. That reminds me of something that I did mention before. From the anime movie Princess Mononoke. At the beginning, you have the infected giant boar god. So we have some examples there as well. And then we have ghouls and other such relating creatures, even some examples of wights. And then how about spore and fungus people? That's some of my beloved monsters right there.
I'd say it depends on how they do it, because when you're talking fungus people, there are fungus people that don't really do assimilation. If you get in their way, they'll probably chop you up and eat you. That is a way of assimilation. But I wouldn't put something as complex and not fighty in their mindset, if people guess who I'm referring to by fungus people.
How about the, speaking of fungus people, how about the clickers, I think they're called The Last of Us? They're like infected like fungus, like zombies that are called like a fungus.
Yep, that's a good one.
What?
Ooh, infected with fungus from the head crabs from Half-Life.
There's another one, yep. Very similar to the whole face hugger. Yeah, the clickers of Last of Us are quite a cool design. And they go along...
Keeping with the whole... keeping with the whole video game theme, I think the aliens from the Resistance games would count, because basically they invaded and then they used something. I don't know. I haven't played the games yet, but they used something to turn a large chunk of the populace into basically hybrid versions.
Yeah, they're called the Chimera. They're called
the Chimera. There we go. There we go.
Nice. The Chimera of the Resistance?
Yeah.
On the topic of zombies, there's also a recent anime one, the damn it, what were they called? From Cabaneri of the Iron Fortress is the name of the anime. And they had basically these zombies. I don't remember what their name exactly. Oh, Kabane. The Kabane from Cabaneri of the Iron Fortress.
I'll try to spell that out.
Kabane. And that's and the name of the anime is the same. Instead after Kabane, you add R, E-R-I of the Iron Fortress.
Okay, I think I got you here.
That.
Yeah. Interesting.
Where instead of the brain, it's the heart. That's like the primary thing you want to not get.
Mm-hmm. And this kind of makes me think... Go ahead.
Yes, please go ahead.
This kind of makes me think of Attack on Titan, because I'm not sure if it was finally revealed how the Titans were made, but that was sort of bacteria, I think, or some kind of drug change of humans as well. So
I think it was. This is a forewarning. Spoilers for Attack on Titan. I'm giving you obligatory 5 seconds to pause the video or something. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Thank you for that.
In Attack on Titan, you have this main Titan who's called Gaia, and she basically has the magical power to turn other people into Titans, and that's how the whole thing started. But on the topic of the Cabaneri of the Iron Fortress, the Kabane are the pure zombie version, but if you somehow manage to restrain the virus from going to your head, you become a Cabaneri. So essentially you're still a normal human, you have your sentience and thoughts, but you have the powers of a Kabane, greater physical strength and all that, and you need to drink blood, because that's the only thing you can sustain yourself on as any other Kabane.
Alrighty. Interesting. So that brings me back to the Strigoi, but before I get into that, and bring up anything you guys want at any time now, we're kind of free, but I was wanting to kind of go into the real, or what we biologically know through science. That didn't make much sense. What we know of biology through science about animals and creatures of our planet that assimilate in these kind of ways are parasites.
Okay, that would be good.
So I guess I'll start that a little bit as I was preparing here. Here's a little website that is a nice quick source to such creatures. One of them, and this clearly links with the Strigoi of the strain. Basically, the Strigoi are infected. They become a kind of vampire, but they're infected with a kind of worm. But then there's a whole another deeper angle to it all as well, and the hive mind that communicates. But essentially at that point there, that relates with what we're talking about, it is a worm that's within them. It changes their body, and that worm uses their body to seek more blood and to feed and spread on to other similar organisms, which in that case was humans. That worm is based off of the real worm called a horsehair worm. I believe there's a few subspecies like that and similar creatures. And what that worm does, let me see if I can get the image here. And I did actually do a video, I don't know if you guys know, about the Strigoi of the strain. That was largely requested by Gargamel, so thanks again. And I do mention all that there. So here's an example. If you see the grasshopper here, what the worm does is, since it's water-based, it will, it will lay an egg or something into cricket, or the cricket will actually eat something that has the worm's egg. The worm will hatch within the cricket. It will develop and grow, feed until a certain point where it's ready to breed. When it's ready to breed, it leads the cricket from within its body into, or a praying mantis or any other insect, into a body of water, or arachnid, into a body of water where it wouldn't jump, by choice, kind of a suicidal thing. The worm controls it, it jumps into the water, and the worm then leaves the body and searches for another worm to breed with, and the cycle restarts. So in a sense, creating these kind of zombie-minded insects. What do you think of this?
This is also
terrifying.
similar to the fungus that brainwashes, takes over the minds of ants and other insects.
Yep.
And
That's
turns
right
them
here.
into mindless zombies, and then
Yeah.
grows out of their heads.
Yep.
Yeah, except in the
This one
strain,
looks
it's a little
nastier.
different. They're being controlled by this one vampire called the Master, and then there's like other vampires, the Asian stuff. Is like I said, only contemplated. The strain also, those vampires, Sugoi, of the assimilators, they actually have several weaknesses, though, that other assimilators don't have. And that's one, they can't cross moving water unassisted because it's just, they don't really explain exactly why it is in the TV show, and they don't even show what happens if one of them were to try it. But that's one of their weaknesses. And also, they can't assimilate every single human being because if they did, they'd starve to death.
At least they're smart.
Mm-hmm.
That's logical.
It's interesting because the strain, this concept was influenced both the strain and the necromorphs very much. Actually, the strains Strigoi are very, in a way, similar to the necromorphs because the necromorphs have their microorganism bacteria that kind of animates and puts this dead tissue to work and life, but still without a marker or a necromorph.
Hey, Z-Pack.
Yes, it is I.
Or a necromorph moon, those, nothing will happen. They will turn into a goo. So the same with the strain. You got this worm, but without a master, they're really not that productive, in a sense, for their own species. So both of them are quite similar, and both of them kind of have that undead side to them.
Yeah. The strain, though, the Strigoi and the strain, one difference is that even without a master, they can still infect you. At least they can in the TV show. I don't want to give away. I don't want to give away the ending. Anyone hasn't seen it, but there is a slight difference between the way the book ends and the way TV show ends, and I only want to give too much away on that because I know there are some people who haven't seen it yet.
So I think C or let me see. Go ahead.
Speaking of parasitic bugs, would from the brain bugs from Starship Troopers, they literally suck out your brains and stimulate your, would that count? I think I'm stretching a little bit.
They do learn from it.
Aren't there I believe it's the third movie where there are actually like bugs that control you? Like,
well, the Starship Troopers saga is definitely one that is to be investigated, if I have to be honest, due to the simple fact that a lot of these things are, well, for lack of a better term, really, really confusing.
That's putting it lightly.
Yeah.
I would say so with that brain bug because it actually, I think, not only feeds on the brain, but learns from the juices. So that's like advanced assimilation right there. So obviously not something we can do as humans, knowingly at least, or yet. Somebody brought up that fungus too. I have that on screen right now, the mind-controlling fungus. That's a really interesting one. It starts to grow on ants, and it makes them, sort of manipulates them to go up a branch where it will spread onto another ant and so on and so forth, and even branch out and growing to the earth.
Yeah, that one.
That's a really cool one.
What's it called? It has a name. MatPat has covered it, meaning that it has been known in pop culture.
Mm-hmm. I made a poll one time on when I was doing the strain Strigoi, I think, on YouTube, and I made a poll saying, what do you think is the scariest creature or possible creature? And my kind of answer was the tiniest ones, like the microorganisms that come in and not kill you, but manipulate you and use you.
The scariest creature in real life or in fiction?
Real life. Well, kind of bordering from real life and what could be possible within our universe from what we know.
Okay. Because in terms of scary creatures from fiction, a lot of stuff terrify me, but one of the concepts I am particularly terrified of is the weeping angels from Doctor Who.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there was a thing where they could actually assimilate people into angels, or they took a voice of someone.
Nice.
Oh, right.
They did.
Even with the whole thing with if you look at a weeping angel, its reflection in your eyes become in itself an angel.
Yeah.
That's so much you could say.
The mirror image of an angel becomes an angel.
I can't wait to do a video on those ones. I did get some requests on them, and I haven't even seen the episode or anything on it yet.
Well, the thing is that we should treat anything Doctor Who-ish with a lot of skepticism due to the fact that it's being rewritten and reconstructed every now and then.
Past season 7, I don't know anything.
I hope you're doing well. In the text, what are those images you put up there, if you can text that? Sorry to interrupt you, Chris.
One thing I can confirm is a pretty good solution to the Weeping Angel problem, which I'm surprised no one in the Doctor Who universe has thought of. So the explanation is, when you look at them, they turn to stone because you can't kill stone, and when you look away, they become alive again. Okay, look at them, they turn to stone, they can't move, grab a sledgehammer, knock that mother's head off, and look away from it calmly. Let's see how they survive that.
I mean, that's the thing about it. They became disformed and disjointed back then in the episode where they didn't have enough energy to feed on, meaning that I don't think that it's actually the creature that looks like an angel, but I think it's actually just taking shape from, angels. The memory,
Yeah, but
sure.
My point still stands. Knock its block off when it revives, quote-unquote, out of its stone form. Problem kind of solved.
I mean, if I were a Dalek in that universe, that's what I've been doing, just with way less sledgehammer and way more... What's it called? Never mind.
That's interesting. It makes me think whether gargoyles, in that mythology, would reproduce by assimilation.
Which mythology are we referring to specifically?
Well, any mythology holding gargoyles. It's certainly something to think about once I get around to working on that.
Oh, yeah.
I think it needs to be a bit more specific, because when you mention mythology / reproduction of gargoyles, what I can think of is the Disney.
Yeah, actually.
So let me see here. Here's another one. There's also Wasp, but here's another one that's interesting on the bottom here. What it is let me see here. It's an organism. I wanted to see if it's a microorganism or a worm, but anyway, nonetheless, it's a parasite, and it enters rats or mice, and once it's within the mouth.
Edit that on.
Okay.
Z, you've become one with the Omnissiah.
Yeah, see. Let's see what happens there. He's been breached by a hive mind. By another hive mind. We need to keep on our...
one with the Omnissiah.
Trying again.
Generation.
We must...
Again. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Welcome
I
here.
can understand you.
Welcome, Noel, by the
Sorry,
way.
He's moved into binary 11001010.
Oh, fuck off.
We need to all collaborate
Can I
and
say that?
create a protective shield around his mind. So, what I was talking about, so this parasite infects mice, and then once it's infected, the mouse doesn't feel fear around cats, and it also doesn't get turned off or away by cat urine. So in a sense, it becomes easier prey for cats, sorry. So then when a cat eats it, the parasite moves on to the cat. There's another parasite that also does that with caterpillars, and then it enters birds, and then they poop them out, and another thing eats them, so it's a cycle of life. But the interesting thing...
So it's literally infecting these ecosystems and then corrupting them.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's
so the interesting thing is here that this parasite also infects a good percentage of humans. And they found that humans that have gone through a car accident, for example, have more of these parasites possibly, which means that maybe they enter more people that are careless which kind of brought me to a conclusion because carelessness
In that
would...
case, I will be infected by now.
Right, because carelessness would bring a human to death, where the parasite can then move on to this thing that made that death. So it's really interesting, because now we're breaching onto humanity and finding out more about what maybe is infecting us daily, and we don't even know. Maybe what's creating depression, and things like that.
I mean, if we are taking a simulation to its most basic level, we can talk about bacteria.
Absolutely.
Where do we draw the line, though?
Exactly.
I mean, bacteria is not actually intending to convert all of us into other bacteria. It is using us as a temporary place to be.
He's doing it again.
See, for some reason you keep...
To be assimilated.
Maybe we should change the topic.
11003110.
He's getting too infected by this. Or maybe we're hitting upon something real here.
The resistance is futile.
So, it's certainly interesting, as the bacteria is the source within the thing. The thing is actually a bacteria, and within the necromorphs, the bacteria plays a huge part as well. And in the Tyranids, I'm not sure the total history of it, but it could quite possibly be that they're all microorganism based.
So do we have any more ideas on any assimilating monsters or any interesting creatures from our own world that make us do crazy stuff?
Well, that's what I was kind of alluding to, is that maybe through time we will find more, because I found a post, for example, that 80 or 90% of our body is actually not our own. It's actually all the microorganisms that work in our body ecosystem. So imagine how many of those could possibly affect our moods, can possibly affect what we want to eat next. It's, again, very possible.
Cells at work.
Yeah, like toxoplasmosis.
As far as animals, here's another post I found when I was preparing for this. If you can take a look on the screen here at Twitch. Actually, it's not this one. This one we already talked about. Oh, here it is. The green sea slug.
You kind of cut out. Could you please repeat?
Sorry, I think I was cutting myself out. It's the green sea slug. There it is. Very fascinating creature here. For the first time, I read something where a plant and animal is exchanging genes, genetics. So now we have this algae, where you can have algae growing on something like a sea turtle, but they're still separate, right? But with this sea slug and the algae on it, they're actually exchanging genes. So the sea slug is actually feeding on the chlorophyll. It creates the chlorophyll and actually feeds off of it as well. It's a cross between plant and animal, and the only example so far, it seems, discovered. So it's more than just a symbiotic relationship at this point.
The way that thing looks, I'm inclined to say kill it with fire, but considering where it lives, that might not be a viable option.
As far as, yeah, I'm pretty sure this one's quite harmless.
If it's not threatening us, we probably should just let it go.
Yeah, this one seems pretty harmless.
The way it is for the way it is.
Like, I'm not saying we need to exterminate, just the way it looks produces the kill it with fire effect in a person's brain.
Yes, I will say. But again, killing it with fire would definitely be my first reaction to a lot of things.
Not for me, unless we're starting to go down corrupt people, the corrupt people end.
Well,
but that's a bit harsh.
Killing someone with fire is pretty much really effective. That tends to kill, most things in the real world and most things in fictional universes.
Probably because fire is a very good universal solution to many things.
Yeah, and I take that back. I was thinking along the lines of purely what we know of in fiction. So anyway, this is pretty interesting mix in our nature. So I hope we can discover more stuff and learn from creatures like this. As you guys may know, scientists are learning new things all the time from animals, and it's great to hear that because it revitalizes our respect for nature, I believe. And things like gecko feet, how they're able to clasp onto glass so easily in flat surfaces, or spider web, how powerful it is, and they're trying to recreate that as well. And things like this. Maybe eventually we can form some medicines where we can feed ourselves better off of sunlight and things like that.
Did you know some of the first cells were solar cells? I'll just see myself out.
Done.
We can finally become Protot. My dream will be fulfilled.
Yes, and you'll lose your mouth and become a part of a great hive mind kind of thing.
All right. Let's see what's going on
Oh,
here.
yeah. I assume we have talked about the Zerg, now you mentioned Protoss.
We just mentioned them, but we haven't really started talking about the
I mean, we
monsters.
should save the big, monstrous devourer of worlds for later, due to the simple fact that it's a monumental amount of data we have on those.
I think the top three, the Flood, Zerg, and Terrans, for last, as there's a lot to talk about them, but we can go through everything else until then.
We can summarize them, being as it is. I think we're hitting, let me see here, upon our hour. Yes, we just passed 1 minute over an hour of actual streaming here. So, as usual, we can continue another 30 minutes if you guys are open to. What do you say?
That'd be great.
That's
Okay.
cool.
So we can jump onto these the big ones. Don't get too deep because obviously we can spend a whole one single episode on each one, and we'll just treat this episode kind of like the previous demon one. So this is kind of like creatures that can assimilate 101, I guess. And then
Yeah.
so let's cover those kind of briefly each. Then I'll summarize everything up, and then we'll talk about our own creations, and we'll finish up. So how do the Zergs work?
You'll be doing the same series for them like you did with the Necromorphs. Suddenly everyone went quiet.
Well, I just don't have anything to say.
So what's the question?
Awkward silence. So, would anyone like to take the stage?
Well, what was the question?
Would anyone like to take the stage? Also, I ask. So, what you said before you kind of went dark, you mean that you will be doing a series like for the Zerg, like you did the Necromorphs?
I mean,
should.
let's cover. I would like to, of course. We'll see how that goes. But I mean, in this episode right now, we can cover the big ones. Let's briefly cover how each one kind of works, the Flood, Zerg, and Tyranids, with the differences. And then we'll go into a summary and our own creation ideas.
Alright. Would anyone like to start with the Flood?
Oh boy. My knowledge of Halo is definitely rusty, so if anyone else is better than me, so...
I mean, I guess I'd have to. I mean, I'm
Thank
not an expert on Halo lore, but I mean, I guess I can try. Basically, they spread through flood spores, and essentially one spore can infect an entire civilization. It can lead to the downfall of an entire species.
Well, that makes
It
sense.
can also infect an entire planet. They can infect like any species pretty much, as long as there's significant biomass.
So what is
True.
it in its
True.
most original form? Is it a bacteria? Is it a blob? What would it look like?
Ouch.
Pain.
Procrastitron is having technical difficulties, it would appear.
I think it's a virus of some kind. The Zerg's the Flood's original form.
Muted procrastitron for a couple, see if it gets better.
Oh. Oh. Are you okay there, buddy? 0011011.
The Borg. Okay, so it seems like it's a kind of virus you were saying, Gargamel?
Alright,
Yeah,
this
that's
is
what I
weird.
think. I'm not sure. I'm not an expert on Halo lore either.
Okay.
From what I recall, because I've done in-depth study and comment wars regarding the effectiveness of the big three, I am passionate, and I spend a healthy amount of time on that stuff. In terms of the Flood, they essentially began as a type of bioweapon developed by the Forerunners to annihilate the precursors, I think, but then it got
Interesting.
out of control.
They look, and that seems very necromorphic, similar.
With them, basically, they use spores to infect other life, and they can get biomass put together to create their the grave mines and the key mines, their hive mind hubs, essentially.
Okay.
With the spore directly impacting the host body, but they don't really gain. They can feed off biomass, but in order to become truly dangerous, they do so when they acquire information by infecting sentient species, which can actually have cognitive function and absorbing their memories.
Nice, and
Kind of like this Joy in the strain.
Mhm.
They absorb when a Strigoi infects you, like with its worm, and it turns you into a Strigoi. It's then you become part of the hive mind, and the master or whatever, the head vampire that's in charge, one like the 7 ancients, will then get all your memories and all your knowledge and stuff. So that's pretty scary in that way, because they could
Sure.
know if you've hidden anything from them, where it is, just by infecting you.
so it seems the Flood was a microorganism manipulated or created as a weapon. So, and then it created these forms. If you can see one on the screen, I have a Flood infection form. So it uses these spores to spread. So it's almost a fungus slash animal. Sometimes those differentiating line is very thin. But then it adapts very well and creates quite a variety of forms.
Oh, what you mentioned, Gargamel, and the way you described it, that would more fit the Tyranids rather than the Flood, because the Flood doesn't really have a hive mind until a grave mind is created. Until they have this instinctual feeling to create one. So you don't have a distinct single master, whilst with the Tyranids, their hive mind is ginormic. It spans galaxies and controls so many creatures. While in Halo lore, the key minds, as the evolved grave minds of the Flood, they were able to rival the AI of the most advanced AI of the Forerunners. The Tyranid hive mind would be on a far larger scale, because while the key minds are impressive, they are more individual, whilst the hive mind of the Tyranids is a lot more all-encompassing. It's so vast that it literally blocks out huge areas of a parallel psychic dimension when it decides to look at a place.
Mm-hmm.
Essentially, you can think of it in the sense that it is so powerful that it goes into the front lawn of the Chaos Gods, which are reality tumors capable of doing whatever they want, essentially. But it just goes into the front lawn, smashes all their ornaments, flips them off, and walks off without any repercussions. A psychic conscious that is that powerful.
Nice. So
It fits more with the master.
kind of segueing to the Tyranids here, what do you guys know of the original creation of them? Are they bacterial based? Were they originally of a kind of more simpler form and eventually progressed?
That's the thing, that we don't know about the Tyranids' origin, but we can speculate that they were a creation of the most overpowered psychic race in existence in 40k. And if they are engineered by the most life fetish systems of 40k, the old ones, that decided we need a super weapon to eat everything so that life cannot feed the Catan. Other super gods, things that like to convert creatures into other things, not a simulation, it's just transference, it's literally like uploading things to things. It's boring, okay? Nobody cares. I care, but I'm
it
nobody.
Seems it's just a really long history, kind of like with the necromorphs. We don't know the history of the necromoons or the markers and such. So with the Tyranids, it sort of goes back possibly multi-millions of years.
Even before the galaxy was. That's when
The shortest you could put it is a bunch of selfish gas canisters with godly powers start to devour the souls of every living thing in the galaxy. The psychically powerful life fetishizers, who were likely toads, create what is supposedly the prototype of the Tyranids to devour all organic matter to create the sort of firewall and obliterate all organic material so that the other gas canisters gets starved. But they kind of, once the war in heaven took a bit of a nasty turn for the old ones, the Tyranids kind of became their own thing and they just went off into the greater universe. Eventually, and it's said that they have devoured the entire galaxy, so there's a gargantuan amount of the Tyranids, which is why their hive mind has spread to such a monumental degree.
Well, if they have destroyed and consumed the entire galaxy, then that's kind of a plot hole, because then why didn't they consume the entire Milky Way galaxy long before humans even came into existence in the 40k universe?
Because plot of convenience. Games Workshop needs to sell Space Marines, god dang it.
And again, it depends how smart they are.
The only reason why the universe has not been destroyed is because Space Marines. Quite literally Space Marines.
So
because without Space Marines, Games Workshop would not be able to sell anything.
But it's still a plot hole.
Right. So they're
it is.
If they're that powerful and that deadly, and they got away, why didn't they already consume the galaxy long before humanity even came along? If they existed in the galaxy that long ago and there was nothing that could stop them.
It's a matter of how wise they are.
Explanations. There's a couple of explanations for that. First being that the War in Heaven didn't take place exclusively in the Milky Way galaxy, and the Tyranids were, if they were created by the old ones, they were developed in a different one. And the other reason is because the Tyranids don't really have a faster-than-light means of travel, as far as I'm aware. At least not a very efficient one, so they move a lot slower than everyone else, and the cosmos is a pretty big place, so it takes them a while to get to places. The hive fleets that are currently trying to enter the Milky Way galaxy, they are like the screening force, the scouts, essentially, of the bigger beast that is coming to devour everything.
Right.
That is the theory, at least, because God help us.
And you have to think that if they're millions of years in being evolved and adaptation, just like the necromorph moons, they have these ways of traversing space, then to be honest, it's a sense of farming us. They know that in order to exist, they need to exist on another race's, feeding on another race or something. So in a sense, letting us live just enough to be able to exist, because if they would consume us, they know they would not exist anymore. So possibly the whole Warhammer universe is just a farming of the Tyranids.
Yeah, that's a depressing theory.
But considering what the Tyranids, they literally strip every last organic molecule from a planet, it doesn't seem very farm-friendly. Because once a Tyranid hive fleet passes by a planet, it is literally a cold dead rock with zero life on it. It's been completely extracted.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a theory, but when applied to the displayed behavior of the Tyranids, it is not very. It's how to put it, unlikely.
So now
not very likely.
with the Zergs, do we have any more answers with the Zergs on the origins?
Oh, definitely. Again, unhealthy amount of time spent on them. The Zerg were originally a species that developed on the planet of Xeris. They're very similar to the Kroot from Warhammer 40k, wherein when they eat something, the organism almost instantly develops brand new mutations and adaptations to become a more refined and superb killer.
Nice.
So the oldest among the Zerg on that planet were the best hunters, essentially, who could consume the most essence and evolve the most. That's when Amon, a Zelnaga, to put it short, godlike entity from another dimension, found them and modified them to the swarm we know today, to become his machines of war to destroy the cycle of the other Zelnaga and to remake the universe in his own image. The Zerg were the thing that would wipe the board clean, essentially. And the original Zerg that were left on Xeris, the primal Zerg, they're still individual organisms that evolve instantly, or almost instantly, when eating something. Whilst the swarm that Amon created, it has its own hive mind instead of just basic pheromones between individuals, and it is the carrier of the Zerg virus. The Zerg genome in itself is the virus. So unless you've pre-cooked a Zerg and you try to consume its flesh or blood in any way, it essentially turns you and spreads the influence of the hive leader and the hive mind of itself to you.
Got it.
Originally, Amon created the Overmind, a huge city-sized brain to be the central hub of the Zerg's hive mind, but eventually, in time, it was replaced by more individual beings. And generally, when there isn't a more powerful Zerg to instate its dominance over a certain amount, just like with the Tyranids, when they lose connection with their hive mind, they turn feral.
I see. Interesting, because
so the main solution to all of these things are killing the most intelligent one amongst them.
Well, but they're bacterial based, so we have that answer, and that answers quite a bit there. If we knew that about the Tyranids, we can have more conclusions. So that's a little different, because with the, for example, the xenomorphs, when you kill the queen, they don't become just feral like a lot of these creatures that we're talking about today, but they rather adapt and continue to molt until they hit that queen state. At least that's what we've seen a lot of people concluding.
Well, I don't know how it's with the Tyranids. From what we've seen, they just go feral, covered by a tendril of a hive fleet, which reintroduces them into the hive mind. With the Zerg, they will initially be feral and turn on each other like basic animals, but over time they start to congregate to do basically what the Flood does and create a sort of higher entity through conglomeration of biomass to be a more central hub.
I see.
The best example I have isn't necessarily canon. It's from the campaign StarCraft Annihilation. No, not Annihilation. Damn it, what was that word? It started with an R. Well, it is essentially a fan-made campaign where some Protoss go to investigate a mining world. There was a small Zerg presence, which they basically brought a bunch of biomass together to create a queen/mini Overmind to lead them.
Well, that's scary. Do not feed the Zerg.
No.
Oh, no, you definitely don't want to feed the Zerg. You don't want to feed any of these creatures. No. You want them all to die, basically, because they're clearly a threat to all life in the universe, and especially humanity.
Seems they all have a certain balance to how powerful they are, but over time it seems the Tyranids have the most the most angles to their power, where they can compensate for something else. And
technically, in terms of their assimilation capabilities, the Zerg are arguably the best among the three. With the Flood, it adapts very fast, but its spores they don't adapt as fast enough to overcompensate the Zerg or Tyranid virus. The Zerg and Tyranids, in terms of assimilation, are kind of tied because, how to put an example, you have a problem to which the species needs to adapt. What the Tyranids would do is they are going to take like 6 generations of creatures over a long period of time until they develop the perfect way to deal with said problem. The Zerg adaptation goes on a ludicrously faster scale, because in the time the Tyranids do their 6 generations, the Zerg will go through like 20 plus generations and they'll reach something that will do the job. It's not perfect, but it does the job.
Hmm.
And
I mean, we could also talk about how the fact that, I mean, a single Zerg would probably be better at infecting an entire world than, a single Tyranid.
So as far as assimilation itself goes, it seems that the Zergs are kind of top of the line. It doesn't mean they're necessarily the most powerful of these 3 or anything we're talking about, but as far as assimilation, they're kind of the most advanced or the fastest at it.
in terms of the Tyranids have the Zerg beat by the fact that they have a lot more numbers than them, and their hive mind is more precise.
Right.
The good thing about the Zerg's hive mind is that it's made out of void energy, which is from the dimension where the Xel'Naga come from, and the void energy acts to other energy like the sword of Raiden from Metal Gear acts to physical matter. The longer void energy clashes with other energy, it starts to distort and destroy it. So it takes very powerful energy to take over the Zerg hive mind, but it's very easy to make it cause them to explode. That's what the Terrans did with the side disruptors. It amplifies the void energy inside the bodies of the Zerg, causing it to physically damage the creatures. But in terms of biology, what the Tyranids do essentially, they will devour the DNA of what they get. They'll bring it back to their hive ships, where they analyze it and create new stuff, whilst the Zerg have a sort of genetic Wi-Fi, you could say. One organism eats something on the battlefield, it immediately develops some kind of mutation or adaptation, and because that one organism has it, the controller of the hive mind can just psychically trigger a genetic development in almost any other creature on the battlefield to also develop that mutation without having eaten anything, essentially. And there's also the way that their infestation is slightly different. Whilst the Flood and the Tyranids impose themselves onto a genetic framework and overpower, essentially latching themselves to it and mutating it, what the Zerg do is they essentially rewrite the entire genetic code of what they touch. So think of the genetic code of a creature as a Word document with a headline and paragraphs of text. What the Flood and the Tyranids do, they essentially remove the headline and insert themselves as the headline, whilst the Zerg rewrite the entire text and just the headline is the last thing remaining of the original creature. Best example of that is Dr. Ariel Hansen from the StarCraft II Terran campaign. If you decide to help the Protoss exterminate her people, she becomes infested and over 95% of her genetic makeup becomes Zerg.
I see.
I remember that. That was I was really disappointed I didn't get to save her. Made me really upset that they corrupted her like that.
Yeah. So the Zerg Institute is a lot more direct and invasive, where one cell will allow itself to be absorbed by the antibody of the host and creates a hole into it, and then all the other Zerg cells from the Zerg genome force themselves in and essentially act like a swarming creature on the battlefield, but inside the organism. So whilst the Flood are, much respect to them, but if they try to assimilate Zerg,
I mean, here's the thing. The Flood is a failure due to the fact that they were built giant things meant to contain them, and that alone makes them inferior to anyone else on this list.
So essentially, with the Tyranids being the perfect adaptation, if the Tyranids are given Zerg material and they have, say, they do 100 years or something, they'll be able to develop something that has near complete immunity to the Zerg virus and its certain mutations. But it will last for like 3 years. In 3 years' time, the Zerg's genome would develop so much that it would require the Tyranids to go into another stage of mass research to gain temporary immunity for a short period of time. So if it's a single hive fleet against the swarm, if the swarm of the Zerg goes at the Tyranids like one hive fleet at a time, it would be able to essentially, over time, like an infection, take over the entirety of the Tyranids. But if the Tyranids were to just smash onto the swarm in their full might, like all the hive fleets, all the unknown number of Tyranids from the other galaxies, then the swarm would be destroyed because the sheer volume.
That's a nice conclusion.
In that whole intermixture, what I think is that whilst the swarm and the Tyranids are fighting, a brand new xenomorphic species would emerge that is essentially a mixture of both, and then everything is fucked. Once those two mix, everything is dead.
I have to agree with you on that. That would be extremely nightmarish creature.
Right? Why not? Why does one have to win? They would just assimilate one to another and become one or a new thing.
Because the speed of the Zerg with the perfectionism of the Tyranids, that is just unbeatable. I don't think even the Necrons would be able to take it on.
I mean, I think the best the best counters to all of these three are actually the Forerunners, due to the fact that they actually succeeded in building huge fuck off. I'm going to eradicate the entire galaxy's vast supply of life machines.
And they still failed to eradicate the Flood.
I mean, they tried. I think they're the ones that got the best out.
Alrighty, guys. If you feel it's been we're kind of finishing off with these, then we're into an hour and 25. If you like, I can summarize and we can talk a little bit about creations, our new kind of category in these. What do you think?
No, sure.
Okay, that's fine.
Alrighty, so being this our first monster cast, what we decided before is to add a kind of try to organize these, and one of the organizations is to have a section here where we talk about our own creations connecting with the topic. So a quick summary of what we talked about today are the different types of monsters that can assimilate and manipulate or combine with genetics of another species or creature. So we talked about xenomorphs, for example, the Flood, Zergs, Tyranids, and the Thing, and so from everything, games and movies. So this is kind of a Monsters That Assimilate 101 episode. And in conclusion, we kind of talked about sort of the top three in a way. Argue, what's that word?
Discussion.
Yeah, not necessarily the official top three, but so arguably, that's the word I was looking for. Top three, which are the Zergs, Tyranids, and Flood. So, and we also talked about animals and creatures that we know in our actual world around us that have these kind of habits, these parasitic type of habits and mind controlling kind of things, and so on and so forth. So if we can close that up, let's talk about some ideas of what you guys have to help creators out there, artists that may be listening to, and other such creators out there.
You mean help them if they want to create their own assimilating monster?
Yeah, is there any idea that you have that maybe can create a more interesting kind of creature that we've talked about, or something that maybe has been missed, or maybe we'll talk about one of the ones we have talked about, but how it could be better or more interesting?
What about tiny, like, microscopic organism that it infects you and it turns into the hive mind, but it doesn't necessarily change your physical appearance, and it'll be difficult even, long after you're infected necessarily to tell that the guy's infected, except for maybe like certain signs that are hard to see. Mm-hmm. Like, for example, the creatures like, it controls you, tells you like go on this, like, go to this certain place so you can infect this other person, and it's mind controlling you. It's mind controlling the entire group, but it's difficult for people to tell who's being mind controlled. That's kind of like the Thing, but it never really transforms. It's just, being controlled by this little tiny, like, parasite creature.
That would make for...
That should do stuff that go into, to spread the parasite.
Mm-hmm. That could make for an excellent TV show or movie. Maybe that's how the Republicans and Democrats were created.
So something.
That's funny.
I think there actually is an anime that has that concept.
I would not be surprised.
Well, it's very possible, not necessarily that the parasite has that in mind as a title, for example, Democrat, but that parasite already involves and infects certain people to form a group. That parasite doesn't care what it is as long as they support one another for its own survival. And maybe that's how we create certain religions or divide ourselves on this planet. Maybe it's all, again, microorganism parasite based.
Maybe. What you described.
And maybe it's not. Maybe it's just that human beings, have a tendency not to get along and to
That's it.
separate themselves out, based on arbitrary things like we always have.
We always talk about aliens and spaceships. What about aliens that invaded us already years ago, or maybe 2 years ago? We don't know, but they invaded us by microorganisms through space trash and such.
Alien microbes, the thing has been done before. There was a movie, I think, called The Andromeda Strain. It was about a virus from outer space, I think it was.
What you described in terms of a function, Carl, I think that is you basically described Unity from Rick and Morty. The hive mind that was Rick's girlfriend.
I'm trying to remember. Let me Google it. Get some visual reference here.
What'd you say, Arthur? Your mic cut out.
Just trying to Google it to get some visual reference. I can't quite remember.
Rick and Morty Unity, and it should pop up.
There we go.
Because she's actually a pretty stellar individual. You say that is the species she is represented through in the show, but basically, and the most iconic one was a secretary character. Unity is a hive mind that has basically taken over entire species, in this case this species, and tries to get into the Galactic Federation to spread to more planets. So it's all one hive mind through all the people of this blue species with the 3 dangly things coming from their head.
It's got that very invasion type vibe from the movie Invasion, where they kind of vomit the bacteria or alien microorganism onto other people to infect them.
Yep. Well, in going to a bit more of the monstrous route, you do have a variety of options. The main 2, I'd say, is if you want them to be a swarming type of creature or more individualistic. Because you do have the good options with the 2 breeds of Zerg, the swarm itself and the primal Zerg, where you have either individual creatures that receive mutations and adaptations from devouring different DNA, using it to either get new abilities or to just increase their own current abilities via the additional proteins and nutritions from the biomass. Or you can have the full-on swarming army that runs over everything like a tide.
Yeah, and that's a good point, because when you're thinking of these kind of creatures, that whole swarm thing has been kind of overdone. We see that with all of them. We see that with Starship Troopers and all that. So it'd be interesting to see kind of diversions of it, kind of Cthulhu-esque. And
there is a reason for why such things sticks around, and that's most likely because they work.
Also, it's very symbolic in a way. It's a way that you can make the enemy, like the monsters, you can tell people there's a meaningful difference between us and this monster in the fiction. This monster has no individuality. That's why you give it a hive mind, so you don't have to, explain why none of them, ever question, why it is that we're conquering humans and we are, trying to wipe them out. For example, with the Independence Day aliens, did not assimilate people. Did not assimilate anything. They just destroyed worlds so they could farm as resources, but they had a hive mind, which tells you that they didn't really have individuality, which explains, why none of them ever questioned the morality of, conquering other worlds and, killing everyone there.
On the topic of hive minds, you do have the option of having a hive mind, but between individual beings. That is not so much a simulation, but that is moving to Protoss from StarCraft again, because the Kalai subspecies of Protoss, they're essentially born with a connection to the Kala, which is like this separate dimension of pure energy, where their thoughts and information can also be transferred, and their souls go there when they die.
Spoilers. They kind of severed that during
Nice.
Legacy of the Void.
Oh, they severed it temporarily. Once the Amon, the god who created the Zerg to wipe everything clean, once he was basically killed in a very stupid way. Blizzard, why? Once he was out of the picture and the Kala was cleansed from him, essentially, they stopped cutting their hair. Their nerve cords which connect them to the Kala. So the newer generations of Protoss once again have the ability to the access to the Kala, and it's a useful thing because they're warriors, artisans, and other type of people. They can use the memories of all those who have lived centuries, millenniums before them, and incorporate all that information into their own craft. So they have enormous amounts of experience. But even though they're connected, they can read each other's minds essentially to communicate like that and have all their emotions brought together. They're still individual beings with their own thoughts and
Right.
reasoning.
Well, here's
I
an
also
example of
I
their
had,
simulation.
speaking of hive minds, I did have an idea for an interesting feature that is somewhat similar to the xenomorphs, but it would actually be more benign. The twist was going to be that this creature it's like an ant colony, has a hive mind and stuff, but it's normally a planty. It's not aggressive anything normally, unless you attack it or you do something that it turns into a threat, and then the entire hive, turns against you, becomes aggressive and will kill you, and will kill anyone else that thinks is a threat. So it normally doesn't harm. This creature I came up with, I'm not sure what I'd call them, but they normally don't harm anyone. They only attack when they see something as a threat. They're sort of like a hive mind creature, but they're not, normally dangerous. But they become dangerous if you do something that they consider threatening.
Mm-hmm. That's kind of
a creature I had.
It's kind of a branch I like that Warhammer took with Tyranids, making the Gene Stealer.
Get a haircut, hippie.
Sorry. Doing the whole Gene Stealer cult. I'm not sure. I wanted to ask this real quick. If you can include the Gene Stealer cult with your Tyrannid army. I know I asked Nick this in the past, but he hasn't been using them. But anyway, it's kind of a cool little branch off, kind of Cthulhu-esque again, like the Cult of Cthulhu, where you start having humanoid and such creatures being more hybrid, I guess. Hybridized.
Yeah, the Gene Stealer cult, their idea is to basically weaken the planet's defenses so it's easier for monsters to come and just eat the buffet, essentially.
Right. So they open the gates. Kind of.
Yeah. But this is something, if Warhammer ever branches out into media, horror story they can use, like I think Bruva Alpha Busa, a guy who makes very nice animations. He made a Halloween special, which was basically a detective on a hive world discovering a Gene Stealer cult. Normal humans just discovering these monsters, creating more of themselves and infiltrating human society. That would make for a pretty good horror story for a movie or a TV series.
Yeah, it definitely would. It's sort of like we're trying to brainstorm different ideas of these things. They're certainly doing that themselves, and it's starting to become more of a psychological thing rather than just a bunch of bugs as seen by the norm maybe overtaking. Dande mentioned here, he said in the text, how about more parasites or creatures similar to the stuff? It's tasty to eat, but it's slowly changing you without you knowing it. So essentially, we could have plants or fruit that appear edible to us, but it's just trying to get into our bodies, and then it starts to not just control us, but maybe physically change us.
That's terrifying. That is really terrifying. That is really, really terrifying.
Be interesting how we would design a fruit like that, because it can't appear too flashy, because as we know in nature, flashy things are sometimes the deadliest, but maybe it just looks like another species of the hundreds of banana species out there. I believe there's about hundreds.
Bananas are actually genetically engineered by humans, so that would probably be a good thing for it to do. Just if it made stuff look like a banana or a strawberry, any of the fruits or vegetables that we've genetically engineered, if it could disguise itself as one of those, it could easily infect a lot of people.
Now let's see what... Go on, guys. I'm going to Google some images of deadly fruit. See what deadly fruit have adapted themselves to look like for us.
I think it's a bit of a stretch, but I think I know of a fruit infection which supposedly changes you in order to propagate itself. And I think that's the heart fruit that gives Black Panther his powers. Because it is a fruit that changes you, not very flashy or visibly, but gives you more strength, enhances your senses or whatnot. And it uses its usefulness in giving these bonuses to being propagated by being nurtured, albeit it's not as massively spread since only the royal family essentially has access to it. But you could say count it in. And also what you mentioned, Gargam, about a hive mind that is more defensive instead of on the offensive. I think Rick and Morty also had that with Million Ants from the Guardians of the Galaxy episode.
There was a Guardians of the Galaxy Rick and Morty episode?
Yes. And it had a guy who was a colony of 1,000,000 ants. That were like millions of ants put together in the shape of a person.
Weird.
Nice. Ants are a whole nother... See, that's... talking of creature creating and concept arts, that's something I did like when I was researching Dead Space, that originally they were going to go with that that Zergish, Tyrannid look for necromorphs, but then they totally changed it and made it just kind of catastrophic changes on humans, more fleshy and bone-based rather than just exoskeleton.
I mean, it was the thing that they studied, what's it called, victims from car accidents to make necromorphs.
Right. So, yeah, so later they shifted, and in an upcoming video here, I guess I could mention it here, it's going to be coming up very soon, I do list the necromorphs, so you'll notice that the original concepts were very just Zergish kind of insectoid in look, and I kind of like that they did something a bit more original and maybe reminiscent of more of the zombie games and a little bit of the Flood as well.
No, that's why I think the necromorphs are actually managed to stick out on their own, essentially. And for them, it's a pretty solid design. No,
it is.
Amplifying and playing on the... Take a human, but put it to the worst possible way you can twist it while still keeping it human, essentially.
It's called a Brody.
So Nick has been mentioning...
I take personal offense to that.
The Necrons.
I'm sorry, Chris. It was a joke.
No.
Anything you guys want to say about Necrons and assimilation here?
Necrons assimilate? I don't think they do. I've read it.
I mean, we have conflicting evidence towards that. There's something called Red Harvesters mentioned in both the 7th edition and the 3rd edition. The difference is that we don't know if they actually converted people or creatures into other Necrons, but it is strongly hinted at that they could convert other people into Necrons, which is, in and of itself, a really interesting thing. But we can for certain imply that they have something called scarabs. These scarabs will devour anything and convert it into energy and then later convert it into material again, e.g. making giant fuck up tomb worlds.
It's always those little ones, face huggers, scarabs, infectors.
Yeah, we should mention those too.
Even though it's kind of retconned, you could also possibly enlighten us more about the pariah from... I think that is a thing.
Oh yeah, due to the Games Workshop being absolutely retarded, they cancelled one of the most awesome units in the entire roster, which was, of course, the Pariahs. Blanks taking from other races and Necron-fied, or rather, partly Necron-fied, meaning that they've got some metallic bits sticking out of them. Looking really awesome, all of that. every single Necron player cries when they hear about that. Most of them, at least.
And to explain for people as familiar with 40k, blanks are essentially creatures who are born without souls, and they essentially block out psychic powers and the influence of the warp, the mental dimension around themselves. So they're very good at being anti-psychic.
Any comment?
Yeah, actually, I'm not sure I'd want a soul in the Warhammer 40k universe, especially if you go to the warp, and given the fact the warp is basically hell.
Oh no, you don't want to live in the Warhammer 40k universe.
Right. See,
This is something that I've seen memes of, where it's like people who play, people who like Harry Potter. I wish I could go to Hogwarts. People who have like the Narnia. I wish I could go through the wardrobe. People who play, for example, Legend of Zelda. I want to visit Hyrule. People who like 40k. Yeah, I'm good, thank you.
Yeah, I know, but I was saying if I did live in the Warhammer universe, I don't think I'd want to have a soul either, because I wouldn't want to spend eternity in the warp, which is basically hell.
right.
You would be hated in the material world for that. Due to not having a soul, such individuals cause uncomfortability to people around.
Hey!
So they're rather ostracized.
And so with this, we sort of make a circle back to our last topic, because we've been talking about science and biology, but we haven't been going really to those otherworldly aspects, such as religious aspects and demons, because demons, obviously, we can easily include them in as an assimilation type creature too, in a different sense, maybe more magical or different biology that we can't comprehend even.
Yeah, especially with the concept of possession, for example, that would be very
Right. That'd be like a
form of assimilation.
Yeah, sure. It's back to that hive mind talk. Maybe possession is simply hive mind assimilation. We just call it possession because we aren't educated on it yet.
Yeah.
Nice. So we're going on to, let's see, we're at an hour and 50 minutes. So this is the longest one yet. I think it's about time we wrap this up. What do you guys think? Do you have anything to add?
Yes, let's end this in the next 10 minutes. Going too much over 2 hours is going to be really long. I got my phone plugged in this time. If I didn't, I wouldn't even be here right now.
Okay.
Well,
Sounds good.
We should say that everyone is welcome to joining the Discord server again, due to the fact that...
Yeah, let me
Should we
shout
post
that
on
out.
what's it called? Twitch too? I mean, we have a single person in here that seems to be very enthusiastic about writing.
So, yeah, let it be noted that anybody can join these chats. Just join our Discord. You can be in the text chat here. We'll read your text. If you don't want to voice chat, you can join the voice chat. Also, we'll be on Twitch. We'll read your comments on Twitch as we record this. This episode will not be edited. Let me just say that. I want to try it out unedited. I might edit some of those sonic sound booms, but nonetheless, it'll be unedited. So let me know in the poll above.
You should remove that's the one exception you make. You should remove those bizarre staticky sounds. Those are going to hurt people's ears.
Right.
And you didn't even intend that to be there.
In as long as this episode
sorry.
will be, I'll try to find those out, which should be pretty easy. Yeah, no worries, Z. So this will be unedited. Let me know, viewers, if you want these more edited, or do you like it more raw like this, so you can really just enjoy them like part of the team here. Now, before we end, we need to figure out the next topic. We actually should have done that before. So next time we'll try to do that before we summarize and talk about creations. We'll figure out the next topic, so before people start dropping off, they'll know what to look forward to next. So what do you guys think? What should be our next topic of discussion?
How about maybe we should do something on, I don't know, maybe monster transformations. Monsters that are transformed, like different, like werewolves and mutants that are like formerly human.
Big topic. We could probably bring Venom back for another round on that one too.
Yeah, so essentially any sort of transformation monster.
Mhm.
A monster
Yeah, like
normally passes
shapeshifting.
Human. Yeah.
And we'll do we'll treat our first 2 test monster casts like just that kind of practice. So we'll return to demons someday in the future. We'll have even more knowledge by then, and all things like that. So we can still talk about things we've talked about, and yeah, we can dive even deeper then. So
something important that we can mention: people in the comments, feel free to suggest a topic us to discuss in the future, so you can give us ideas.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a good point.
That'd be really good.
We should write all of these suggestions down, have a large list somewhere. Would be useful.
Yeah, I agree. It'd be really useful to write them all down. That way
So-
we'll be more likely to remember them.
So yeah, kind of as we're new into this, we're kind of keeping the topics pretty broad, which is fine, I think, for now. So like shapeshifters, changelings, transformers, I think we'll all kind of throw into this. And as we progress and start to maybe not run out of topics, but later we can start to really narrow down on topics and get to... So it's almost like a learning course. So we'll do a Transformer Creatures 101 type kind of thing.
Good idea.
I'll try to keep all the thumbnails the same for all these monster casts too, so they're easy to find in the mess of videos too in the future. And as far as what I think Chris mentioned, that people can suggest things too, feel free, as with any monster requests on this channel, you can request what we should talk about in the monster cast in the comments over on YouTube, since that's going to be the bulk of our comments and communication with the whole thousands of people that we have here. So comment over there. I'll, as usual, go through those comments. We can even refer to them in these monster casts and narrow down what we should talk about in the future.
I'll see you guys later.
All right, everybody. So, yeah, next
Nice
time
day.
we'll do Creed Monsters that Transform. Thank you for joining us, Gargamel Gold, Nande in the voice text chat, Chris again in the voice, Z again in the voice. We had Procrastitron as well, and Noel, and everybody else, and the Idig Beer from the Idig Beer channel, Nick, joined us over at Twitch as well. So thank you, everybody, for joining. It's been an awesome chat again. Glad we could touch about things real and unreal and all that we know.
Alright, well, have a good night, guys.
I should have given you a better cue that, yeah, that's it. So goodbye, everybody. Thank you for joining in, and I'll see you on Discord and in the chat.
Bye.
See ya. Well, that was cool.
That was positively delightful.